Angela Thompson woke up early that morning with a mixture of determination and anxiety. Today was an important day. She was going to court to settle a civil matter, but she had no idea that her life would take an unexpected turn inside those walls. She carefully dressed in a simple professional outfit, wanting to look confident and respectable. She didn't want anyone, especially the officials in the courtroom, to underestimate her. As she drove to the courthouse, Angela rehearsed what she would say. She wanted to make her points clear, logical, and calm. She had dealt with unfairness before, but she never let it shake her spirit. She reminded herself that her presence mattered, and that no one could diminish her worth. She parked her car and walked toward the courthouse, feeling the weight of the day but also a quiet sense of readiness. The courthouse was busy, filled with people attending hearings, lawyers rushing through hallways and clerks calling out names. Angela took a deep breath and joined the line at the security checkpoint. She placed her bag on the conveyor belt, stepped through the metal detector, and felt a sense of both nervousness and anticipation. She knew that courts could be intimidating, especially when facing people who assumed they had power over her simply because of her skin color and gender. Angela found a seat in the waiting area and opened her notebook. She reviewed her notes, organizing the points she wanted to make. As she did, she noticed a police officer standing nearby. His name was Officer Daniel Green. Angela had seen him before in town news, known for being loud and sometimes harsh. Today, he was on duty in the courtroom. She tried to ignore him, focusing on her notes and deep breaths, but she could feel his eyes on her. There was a tension in the air that made her uncomfortable, yet she refused to let it distract her. Minutes later, the courtroom clerk called her name. Angela stood, gathered her papers, and walked toward the courtroom. As she entered, she noticed the judge at the bench, the attorneys seated at their tables, and the public gallery filled with spectators. Everything seemed normal until Officer Green approached, speaking in a tone that was sharp and unnecessarily loud. "Are you sure you know what you're doing here?" he said, glancing at Angela with a smirk. "Courtrooms aren't really for people like you to try and run things." Angela froze for a moment, taken aback by the comment. She had faced prejudice before, but she had never been addressed so openly and disrespectfully in a place where justice was supposed to prevail. She felt a surge of emotions, anger, disbelief, and a need to stand her ground. She took a deep breath and calmly replied, "I am here to follow the law and present my case. I expect to be treated with respect just like anyone else." Officer Green laughed lightly as if mocking her, and made another snide remark about her capabilities. Angela noticed the judge observing the exchange but not intervening immediately. She realized that she had to handle this carefully. Losing her composure would only play into the officer's hands. She straightened her posture, held her head high, and walked toward her designated spot. The session began, and Angela presented her case in a clear and concise manner. She spoke confidently, explaining the facts, providing evidence, and answering questions. Despite the officer's presence and occasional whispers meant to intimidate her, Angela remained focused. She knew that her strength was not in aggression, but in her composure and clarity. During a brief recess, Officer Green approached again. This time, his words were more pointed. "You think you can just come in here and speak like that? You're lucky this is a courtroom, or I'd show you how things work." Angela felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew she could not allow threats to dictate her actions. She responded firmly, "I am here to participate in the legal process. Your personal feelings do not change the law." The tension in the room was palpable. Some spectators whispered among themselves, clearly noticing the unusual exchange. Angela could feel the weight of expectation, but she reminded herself that her purpose was greater than the moment of discomfort. She was standing not just for herself, but for the principle of fairness and justice. As the session continued, Angela noticed that her calm demeanor was gaining quiet respect. Some attendees were nodding slightly, acknowledging her poise. The judge began to take a closer interest in the proceedings, asking questions and paying attention to the evidence she presented. Angela realized that maintaining her composure was making a difference. By the end of the morning session, Angela had successfully communicated the key points of her case. Officer Green's attempts to undermine her had not worked, and although he still wore a smug expression, there was a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Angela felt a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. She knew that the day was far from over, but she had taken the first step in standing up for herself in a challenging environment. During lunch, Angela reflected on the morning. She knew that her encounter with Officer Green was more than just a personal confrontation. It was a reflection of broader issues she had witnessed in society. She resolved to document everything, stay calm, and continue to present her case with the same clarity and confidence. She understood that her strength lay in her preparation and her refusal to let bias and intimidation shake her resolve. Returning to the courtroom for the afternoon session, Angela noticed that Officer Green seemed slightly more restrained, though still tense. The judge asked follow-up questions and reviewed the evidence she had provided. Angela's detailed notes and careful organization allowed her to respond confidently to each query. She began to feel a sense of empowerment, realizing that her determination and preparation were beginning to outweigh the officer's attempts at intimidation. As the day drew to a close, the judge adjourned the session and scheduled the next hearing. Angela gathered her papers, feeling a mix of exhaustion and accomplishment. She knew that the challenge was far from over, but she also knew that she had made an impression. The officer had underestimated her, but she had stood her ground and shown that she was not easily intimidated. Walking out of the courthouse, Angela felt the weight of the day lift slightly. She knew that she had faced a difficult situation with courage and composure. She also understood that this was just the beginning of a longer journey, one that would test her patience, resilience, and determination. Yet she felt a quiet sense of pride. She had confronted bias head-on and had done so with dignity and strength. Angela drove home that evening reflecting on what had happened. She considered the importance of standing up for oneself, even in environments where power and prejudice seemed to dominate. She thought about the countless others who might face similar situations, and the significance of showing courage in the face of intimidation. For Angela, today was more than just a court hearing. It was a statement about her resilience and her unwavering commitment to justice. After leaving the courthouse, Angela knew she could not let the incident with Officer Green fade into memory. She felt the sting of humiliation, but more than that, she felt a deep sense of determination. She had always believed that justice required action, not silence. Sitting in her living room that evening, she spread out her notes, documents, and recordings from the court session on the coffee table. Every detail mattered, from the officer's tone and gestures to the exact words he had used. Angela knew that meticulous documentation would be crucial if she was going to hold him accountable. She started by reviewing the court transcripts. The words leapt off the page, reminding her of the unnecessary hostility she had endured. Angela underlined each comment that was disrespectful, highlighting the parts where Officer Green had crossed professional boundaries. She also listened to the audio recording she had discreetly made during the court session. Hearing the officer's voice, the condescension and arrogance were impossible to ignore. Angela felt a mix of anger and resolve. She would not let this go unchallenged. Angela reached out to a civil rights lawyer recommended by a friend. She explained everything, from the initial remarks in the waiting area to the repeated attempts at intimidation during the session. The lawyer, a patient and sharp-minded woman, listened carefully. She nodded as Angela spoke, making notes on her legal pad. "You've done well by staying calm and documenting everything," the lawyer said. "This gives us a strong foundation. Many people underestimate the power of careful preparation, and you've done exactly what's needed." Encouraged by the lawyer's words, Angela began organizing her evidence. She created a timeline of events, noting the time of each interaction, the location, and the witnesses present. She also made a list of people who had observed the incident and could confirm her account. Angela knew that having credible witnesses would strengthen her case, especially against someone in a position of authority who might otherwise be believed over her. Over the next few days, Angela contacted the witnesses. She approached them respectfully, explaining the situation and asking if they would be willing to provide statements. Some were hesitant at first, worried about potential backlash, but Angela's calm and genuine demeanor reassured them. They agreed to help. Each conversation reinforced Angela's determination. She realized that standing up against someone like Officer Green was not just about her. It was about sending a message that abusive behavior could not be ignored. Angela also began to research the proper channels for filing complaints against law enforcement officers. She learned about the local police oversight board and the complaint procedures they followed. She made sure to understand the legal requirements so her submission would be thorough and credible. She knew that any small mistake could give Officer Green an opportunity to dismiss her complaint. Angela's meticulous nature and attention to detail became her greatest asset. Meanwhile, she noticed that the local community had mixed reactions to her story. Some people were supportive, offering encouragement and advice. Others questioned whether it was worth challenging a police officer, warning her of the difficulties she might face. Angela considered their words but decided that she could not let fear dictate her actions. She reminded herself that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. With all her evidence prepared, Angela drafted a formal complaint. She described each incident factually, avoiding emotional language while still conveying the seriousness of the offense. She included her audio recording, witness statements, and the court transcripts. Every detail was presented in a clear, logical order. Angela knew that a well-structured complaint would demand attention and reduce the chances of it being dismissed on technicalities. Before submitting the complaint, Angela reviewed it with her lawyer. The lawyer suggested a few adjustments, ensuring that the language was precise and the documentation was complete. Angela made the changes carefully, double-checking every attachment and reference. She felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She was no longer just reacting to what had happened. She was taking proactive steps to ensure accountability. The day she submitted the complaint, Angela felt a mixture of nervousness and relief. She delivered it to the oversight board in person, making sure it was received and logged officially. The clerk at the desk acknowledged her submission with a professional nod. Angela left the office knowing that her actions had set the wheels in motion. She understood that the process might be slow and challenging, but she also knew that standing up for justice often required patience and persistence. In the weeks that followed, Angela continued to gather additional evidence. She reviewed past incidents involving Officer Green, discovering a pattern of behavior that reinforced her case. She found news articles and public records of previous complaints, each one adding credibility to her claim. Angela remained focused, dedicating hours each day to preparation. She balanced this with her work and personal life, understanding that resilience required both mental strength and careful planning. Angela also began to prepare mentally for potential confrontation. She knew that Officer Green might attempt to intimidate her further, either directly or indirectly. She practiced staying calm, rehearsing how she would respond to any provocation. She visualized the courtroom and imagined herself speaking with confidence and clarity. Angela realized that preparation was not just about documents and evidence. It was also about mental readiness and emotional control. During this period, she found support in unexpected places. Friends and colleagues offered encouragement, sharing stories of similar experiences and reminding her that she was not alone. Angela felt a sense of solidarity that strengthened her resolve. She began to understand that her fight was part of a larger struggle for fairness and accountability, one that extended beyond her personal experience. Finally, after several weeks of preparation, Angela received notice that the Oversight Board had reviewed her complaint and would move forward with an investigation. The news was both exciting and nerve-wracking. She knew that Officer Green would be aware of the proceedings, and she anticipated potential pushback. Yet Angela felt ready. She had done everything in her power to ensure that the truth would be heard. As the investigation progressed, Angela continued to document every interaction. She kept a detailed journal of her experiences, noting any attempts at intimidation or bias. She remained professional and composed, understanding that her behavior could influence the outcome. Angela's careful attention to detail and unwavering commitment to justice began to attract attention from other community members, some of whom reached out to offer support and advice. The process was not easy. Angela faced moments of doubt and fatigue, but she reminded herself why she had started this journey. She thought about the importance of holding those in positions of power accountable, not just for her own sake, but for the larger community. Each day of persistence reinforced her sense of purpose. Angela realized that courage was built not in a single moment, but through continuous action, even when the outcome was uncertain. By the time the first formal hearing was scheduled, Angela felt prepared. She had reviewed her evidence countless times, rehearsed her statements, and mentally fortified herself for whatever might come. She understood that this was a pivotal moment, one that could set a precedent and show that abuse of authority would not go unchecked. Angela's journey had transformed her from a woman facing an offensive remark in court into a determined advocate for justice, ready to face the challenges ahead with strength, clarity, and resilience. Angela woke up early on the day she was scheduled to file the formal complaint with the oversight board. The morning sunlight streamed through her window, casting a warm glow that felt like a small reassurance. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, and today it would all be submitted in a formal, undeniable way. She dressed carefully, opting for professional attire that would help her feel confident and strong. As she sipped her coffee, she reviewed the complaint one final time, making sure every detail, every piece of evidence, and every statement from witnesses was accounted for. The drive to the oversight board was quiet. Angela reflected on how far she had come since the courtroom encounter with Officer Green. That day had shaken her, but it had also ignited a determination that she had never felt before. Every document in her folder represented hours of hard work, meticulous attention to detail, and an unwavering commitment to justice. She knew that this complaint could have significant consequences, not only for her but for the community as a whole. Upon arriving, Angela was greeted politely by the clerk at the front desk. She handed over the thick folder containing her complaint and supporting evidence. The clerk acknowledged her submission, logging it into the system and giving Angela a receipt for her records. Even this small formal step felt empowering. Angela had taken control of a situation that had once made her feel powerless. She left the building with a sense of purpose and determination, knowing that the next phase of the process would begin soon. Over the next few days, Angela received confirmation that her complaint had been reviewed and that an investigation would commence. She knew that this meant Officer Green would also be aware of the proceedings, and she anticipated subtle changes in his behavior. True to her expectations, she noticed him in public places displaying signs of unease. Angela remained composed, understanding that any reaction from him would likely be an attempt to intimidate or undermine her. She refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her flustered or fearful. Angela continued to meet with her lawyer regularly. They reviewed potential questions, anticipated arguments, and discussed strategies for presenting her case in the most effective manner. The lawyer emphasized the importance of clarity, composure, and factual accuracy. Angela practiced answering questions calmly and directly, making sure her tone conveyed confidence without aggression. These sessions were intense, but they fortified her resolve and prepared her for the challenges ahead. In addition to legal preparation, Angela also focused on her emotional strength. She spent time meditating and reflecting, understanding that maintaining calm and focus would be essential throughout the investigation. She journaled her thoughts, fears, and expectations, using writing as a tool to process the stress and maintain perspective. Angela realized that her journey was not just about proving wrongdoing. It was also about growing stronger, both mentally and emotionally. As the investigation progressed, Angela gathered additional supporting materials. She collected documents showing a history of complaints against Officer Green, news articles highlighting his conduct, and statements from other witnesses who had experienced similar encounters. Each piece of evidence added weight to her case, creating a detailed and compelling narrative. Angela knew that thorough preparation would make it difficult for the officer or anyone else to dismiss her complaint. Angela also became aware of the subtle dynamics within the community. Some individuals were supportive, offering encouragement and sharing stories of their own encounters with bias or intimidation. Others were skeptical, questioning whether challenging a police officer was worth the potential stress and conflict. Angela listened to all perspectives but ultimately trusted her judgment. She understood that standing up for justice often required courage in the face of doubt and adversity. During this period, Angela also prepared her witnesses. She met with them individually, explaining the process and helping them understand how to communicate their observations effectively. She encouraged them to be truthful and precise, ensuring that their statements would be credible and consistent. Angela's dedication to her witnesses demonstrated her commitment not only to her own cause but also to maintaining fairness and integrity in the process. Angela noticed that her daily life was increasingly intertwined with the investigation. She balanced her work, personal responsibilities, and preparation with remarkable focus. She remained vigilant, recording any interactions with Officer Green or others that could be relevant. She documented even minor details, knowing that patterns of behavior could be significant in supporting her claims. Angela's attention to detail became a hallmark of her approach, reinforcing her credibility and determination. As the first formal hearing approached, Angela continued to refine her strategy. She rehearsed her statements, anticipated counter-arguments, and mentally prepared for the stress of the courtroom. She visualized the proceedings, imagining herself responding calmly and confidently to any challenge. Angela knew that preparation was not just about the documents she had collected. It was about controlling her mindset and maintaining composure under pressure. On the day of the hearing, Angela arrived early, dressed professionally and carrying her carefully organized folder. She felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. She knew that Officer Green would be present, and she anticipated his attempts to appear confident or dismissive. Angela reminded herself that her power lay in her preparation, her clarity, and her composure. As the hearing began, Angela presented her case with precision. She explained each incident, supported her statements with evidence, and guided the board through her carefully documented timeline. The witnesses she had prepared spoke clearly and concisely, corroborating her account. Angela observed the reactions of the board members and noted subtle shifts in their demeanor. Her evidence and preparation were beginning to resonate, creating an undeniable narrative of misconduct and abuse of authority. Throughout the hearing, Officer Green attempted to challenge her claims. He made dismissive remarks and questioned the credibility of witnesses. Angela responded calmly, focusing on the facts and evidence rather than engaging emotionally. She understood that reacting to provocation would only weaken her position. Her composed demeanor contrasted with the officer's defensiveness, further reinforcing her credibility in the eyes of the board. By the end of the hearing, Angela felt a sense of cautious optimism. She had presented her case effectively, and the board had clearly engaged with the evidence. She knew that the investigation would continue, and that additional steps would be required before any final decision was made. Nevertheless, Angela felt empowered. She had taken control of the situation and demonstrated that even someone facing intimidation from authority could stand strong and demand accountability. Leaving the hearing, Angela reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the initial courtroom incident, the weeks of preparation, the support from friends and witnesses, and the meticulous work she had done to document every detail. She understood that this process was about more than her personal experience. It was about reinforcing principles of justice and accountability. Angela felt a deep sense of responsibility, knowing that her actions could inspire others to stand up against unfair treatment. In the days following the hearing, Angela continued to monitor the investigation and communicate with her lawyer. She remained organized and diligent, maintaining a clear record of all developments. She also focused on her emotional well-being, ensuring that she remained resilient and capable of handling the challenges ahead. Angela's journey had taught her that courage, preparation, and composure were essential tools in the pursuit of justice, and she continued to cultivate them daily. The day of the disciplinary hearing arrived, and Angela felt a mix of nervousness and determination. She knew that this would be a crucial moment, the stage where her months of preparation and patience would be tested. She dressed in her usual professional attire, a simple suit that conveyed confidence without drawing unnecessary attention. She reviewed her notes one last time in the car before entering the courthouse, ensuring that she could respond to any questions clearly and accurately. As she walked into the courtroom, the atmosphere was charged. Officer Green was already present, flanked by his lawyer and several colleagues. He attempted to appear calm and composed, but Angela noticed subtle signs of tension in his posture and expression. She reminded herself that she had prepared for this moment, that her evidence, her witnesses, and her calm demeanor were her strongest assets. She took a deep breath and stepped forward with quiet confidence. The hearing began with introductions and statements from the board members. Angela observed carefully, noting the expressions and reactions of those present. When it was her turn to present, she spoke clearly, outlining the incidents with precision and factual clarity. She explained how Officer Green had acted inappropriately in the courtroom, providing detailed examples supported by her notes, recordings, and witness statements. Angela made sure to maintain a calm tone, emphasizing facts rather than emotions. The witnesses she had prepared stepped forward one by one. Each recounted their observations in a clear and concise manner, reinforcing Angela's account. They spoke of the officer's condescending remarks, his dismissive behavior, and the attempts to intimidate her. Angela listened quietly, grateful for their courage and consistency. Their testimonies strengthened her case, providing an objective perspective that made it increasingly difficult for the officer to dismiss the claims. Officer Green's lawyer attempted to challenge the credibility of the witnesses and cast doubt on the validity of Angela's evidence. He asked pointed questions seeking to undermine her account. Angela remained composed, answering each question with clarity and precision. She referred to her documented timeline, the recordings, and the statements of other observers. Her calm and methodical approach contrasted with the officer's defensive and sometimes evasive responses, highlighting the difference between preparation and arrogance. At one point, Officer Green tried to make a dismissive comment toward Angela, attempting to provoke a reaction. Angela felt a surge of emotion but quickly took a deep breath, maintaining her composure. She calmly responded, reiterating her account and referencing the evidence she had provided. The board members took note of her poise, recognizing her ability to remain professional even in the face of provocation. Angela realized that her calm demeanor was just as powerful as the evidence itself. Throughout the hearing, the board asked Angela to clarify certain points. She provided additional details, referencing specific moments from the courtroom incident, corroborating statements from witnesses, and examples of similar behavior observed by others. She remained precise, avoiding exaggeration or speculation. Her credibility was reinforced by the consistency of her statements and the thorough documentation she had prepared over the past months. The hearing lasted several hours, during which Angela carefully navigated questions, cross-examinations, and procedural discussions. Officer Green's attempts to deflect responsibility became increasingly transparent. Angela noticed that his initial confidence was waning, replaced by frustration and discomfort. She stayed focused, understanding that her goal was not to shame him personally but to ensure accountability and uphold the principles of fairness. At one point, the board asked Angela how this incident had affected her personally. She spoke honestly, describing the emotional impact of facing intimidation and disrespect in a space meant for justice. She explained how the experience had reinforced her determination to stand up, not only for herself, but for others who might face similar situations. Her words were measured, heartfelt, and grounded in the truth, further strengthening her credibility and the moral weight of her case. After presenting all her evidence and responding to questions, Angela listened as Officer Green attempted a final defense. He downplayed the incident, suggesting that it was a misunderstanding. Angela observed his demeanor carefully, noting the lack of sincerity in his words. She remained silent, allowing the evidence, witness statements, and her own testimony to speak for themselves. The contrast between her composed professionalism and his evasive responses was evident to everyone present. The board then deliberated, reviewing the evidence, testimonies, and arguments presented. Angela waited outside the courtroom, her heart racing but her mind focused. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from the initial courtroom encounter to the meticulous preparation, the witness coordination, and the emotional fortitude required to face the officer and his attempts at intimidation. She understood that the process itself was a testament to her resilience and commitment to justice. Finally, the board reconvened to deliver their decision. Angela returned to the courtroom, standing tall as the chairperson addressed the proceedings. They acknowledged the strength and clarity of her evidence, the consistency of witness statements, and the credibility she had demonstrated throughout the hearing. Officer Green's behavior was deemed inappropriate, a violation of professional standards and conduct. The board ruled that disciplinary action would be taken against him, including suspension and mandatory retraining, as well as a formal record of the misconduct. Angela felt a profound sense of relief and accomplishment. The months of preparation, persistence, and courage had culminated in a just outcome. She realized that her actions had not only held Officer Green accountable, but had also sent a message about the importance of integrity, fairness, and standing up against abuse of authority. She understood that the impact of this ruling extended beyond herself, offering hope and inspiration to others who might face similar challenges. As she left the courthouse, Angela reflected on the journey she had undertaken. She thought about the initial fear and uncertainty, the meticulous preparation, and the unwavering focus that had guided her through the process. She felt a deep sense of empowerment, knowing that she had transformed a moment of personal offense into a meaningful act of accountability and justice. In the following days, Angela continued to process the experience. She shared her story with close friends and family, emphasizing the importance of courage, preparation, and resilience. She remained mindful of the broader implications of her actions, understanding that standing up for what is right often requires both persistence and patience. Angela's journey had not only addressed a specific incident, but had also strengthened her sense of self, her confidence, and her commitment to fairness in all aspects of life. Angela's story became a quiet inspiration within her community. People who had observed her strength and composure began to recognize the importance of holding those in positions of power accountable. She realized that her determination had created a ripple effect, encouraging others to act with courage and integrity in the face of injustice. Angela continued her daily life with renewed purpose, carrying the lessons of resilience, preparation, and principled action into every challenge she encountered. After the disciplinary hearing, Angela felt a sense of relief and accomplishment that she had never experienced before. The months of preparation, documentation, and emotional resilience had finally led to a just outcome. But the journey was not just about the ruling. It was about understanding the depth of her own strength and the impact she could have on her community. She spent the evening reflecting on everything that had happened, thinking about how a single act of courage could create meaningful change. The day after the ruling, Angela received confirmation that Officer Green would face suspension, mandatory retraining, and a formal record of misconduct. It was a rare moment of accountability in a system that often favored authority figures. Angela knew this decision would not erase the stress and intimidation she had endured, but it validated her effort and determination. She also understood that this outcome could inspire others to stand up for themselves and challenge unfair treatment. Angela shared the news with her lawyer, who praised her for her calm, methodical approach and the careful preparation that had made the case undeniable. "You handled this beautifully," the lawyer said. "Your professionalism, patience, and courage made all the difference. Many people would have let fear or anger derail them, but you stayed focused and composed. That's what won the day." Angela smiled, feeling a sense of pride and recognition for the hard work she had put in. Word of Angela's success began to spread quietly in the local community. Friends, neighbors, and colleagues reached out with messages of support and admiration. Some shared their own experiences of facing intimidation or bias, expressing gratitude that someone had stood up and shown that it was possible to seek justice. Angela listened to these stories and offered encouragement, realizing that her experience had become a source of inspiration and hope for others. Despite the recognition, Angela remained grounded. She understood that the ruling was only part of the journey. The true impact lay in the way she carried herself forward and in the example she set for others. She continued to document her experiences, not for personal gain, but to provide a guide for anyone who might face similar challenges. Angela believed that knowledge, preparation, and composure were essential tools in confronting injustice. In the weeks following the ruling, Angela noticed subtle changes in her interactions with Officer Green and others in positions of authority. He became more cautious and restrained, aware that his previous behavior had been scrutinized and judged. Angela observed these changes without malice, recognizing them as a sign that accountability and professionalism could influence behavior. She felt satisfied knowing that her actions had contributed to a culture of responsibility and respect. Angela also focused on her personal growth. She took time to reflect on the emotional and mental strength she had developed throughout this journey. She practiced mindfulness, journaling, and self-care, recognizing that resilience required ongoing attention. Angela realized that courage was not a one-time act, but a sustained effort to maintain integrity, clarity, and composure in the face of challenges. She felt empowered by her own capacity to navigate adversity with dignity and determination. The experience also deepened Angela's understanding of justice and fairness. She became more attuned to subtle forms of bias and intimidation, recognizing how they could affect individuals in everyday situations. Angela used this awareness to support others, offering guidance and encouragement to those who might be facing similar circumstances. She understood that standing up for oneself was not just about confronting overt misconduct, but also about cultivating a mindset of resilience and self-respect. Over time, Angela's story became a quiet example of accountability within the local legal and law enforcement community. Colleagues and acquaintances spoke of her determination and composure, acknowledging the significance of her actions. Angela received invitations to speak at community events, sharing her experience and offering practical advice on navigating challenging encounters with authority. She approached these opportunities with humility, emphasizing preparation, clarity, and calmness as key strategies for confronting injustice. Angela's relationship with her community strengthened as a result of her experience. People admired her not only for the outcome but for the way she conducted herself throughout the process. She demonstrated that standing up against bias and intimidation did not require aggression or hostility, but rather patience, preparation, and unwavering commitment to principles of fairness. Her actions encouraged others to approach difficult situations with confidence and resilience. As the months passed, Angela continued to integrate the lessons from this experience into her daily life. She became more confident in her interactions, more aware of her rights, and more capable of addressing challenging situations with composure. She maintained meticulous records of her professional interactions, ensuring that she was always prepared and informed. Angela recognized that preparation and attention to detail were not just tools for legal matters, but essential skills for navigating life's complexities. Angela also reflected on the emotional journey she had undertaken. The initial fear and intimidation had been transformed into empowerment and self-assurance. She understood that confronting authority, documenting evidence, and maintaining composure required both mental and emotional strength. Angela felt proud of her ability to remain true to herself while navigating a challenging and often unfair system. In the long term, Angela's experience had a ripple effect on the community. Others began to recognize the importance of accountability, transparency, and respect in interactions with authority figures. Her story encouraged individuals to stand up for themselves, to document incidents, and to seek justice when confronted with unfair treatment. Angela's actions demonstrated that meaningful change was possible, even in systems that often seemed imbalanced or intimidating. Ultimately, Angela's journey was not defined solely by the ruling against Officer Green. It was defined by the courage, preparation, and resilience she had displayed throughout the process. She had faced intimidation and bias head-on, transforming a moment of personal offense into a powerful statement about accountability and fairness. Angela emerged from the experience stronger, wiser, and more confident in her ability to navigate challenges with integrity. Angela continued her life with a renewed sense of purpose. She remained engaged in her community, offering guidance and support to those who faced difficult circumstances. She continued to document her experiences and refine her approach to dealing with authority, ensuring that she was always prepared and capable. Angela understood that her actions had created a legacy of empowerment and accountability, demonstrating the importance of courage, composure, and principled action. In the end, Angela's story became a testament to the power of persistence, preparation, and moral courage. She showed that even in the face of intimidation and systemic bias, individuals could stand firm, demand accountability, and inspire change. Her journey was a reminder that justice is not only about legal outcomes, but also about the strength and integrity with which one navigates challenges. Angela's experience left an indelible mark, both on herself and on the community she had influenced, proving that resilience and principled action can transform adversity into empowerment and hope.